What happens when the man declared infertile gets a woman pregnant? What happens when that woman is from the hills of Jamaica, poor, dismissed, invisible? What happens when biology becomes more powerful than bullets? You're about to find out. And trust me, no one, not even them, saw this coming. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. This story spans continents, cultures, and the kind of secrets that change bloodlines forever. You won't want to miss a single episode. Now, let's begin. The mud clung to Kesha's boots like shame. Move faster, country girl. Delphine's voice cut through the humid morning air, sharp enough to draw blood. You think we have all day for you to finish one load? Kesha kept her head down, her hands raw from the morning's work. The other women at the agricultural co-op watched with familiar cruelty, some pitying, most amused. This was entertainment in rural Jamaica. Watching Kesha stumble, watching her endure. She's slow because she's simple, Maribel added, loud enough for everyone to hear. You know what they say about hill girls? All that sun and no sense. Laughter rippled through the group. Kesha said nothing. Silence was survival here. Protest was permission for worse. Kesha. The overseer, a thick-necked man named Cadogan, lumbered toward her. You're done. Pack your things. Her stomach dropped. Sir, I finish my work every... Your work? Cadogan's laugh was cruel. Look at you. Barefoot, dirty. Can barely lift a crate without sweating like a mule. We don't need charity cases here. I'm not asking for charity. I earn my... Earn? Delphine stepped closer, her perfume sickly sweet against the earth's rawness. Girl, you earn pity. And pity don't pay bills. Kesha's throat tightened. This job was all she had. The co-op paid just enough to send money to the children's home, where she'd grown up, the only place that ever gave her a name. Please. The word came out broken. I need this work. Cadogan's smile turned predatory. Well now, maybe we can work something out. The sky cracked open without warning. Rain hammered down in sheets, turning dirt roads into rivers. Workers scattered, sprinting for shelter. Kesha ran too, her thin dress plastered to her skin, her breath ragged. Ahead, lights glowed from a hillside estate, one of those foreign-owned retreats that Jamaica sold to men with too much money and no roots. The kind of place Kesha would never be allowed inside. But the rain didn't care about permission. She slipped through a side gate, stumbling into a covered walkway. Her chest heaved. Water dripped from her hair, pooling at her feet. Are you lost? Kesha spun. A man stood in the shadows, tall, sharp-featured, dressed in black despite the tropical heat. His eyes were cold, assessing. Korean, she realized. One of the foreign guests. I'm sorry. The storm. You're trespassing. His voice was flat, emotionless. I'll leave. She turned, but his next words stopped her. Stay. The rain won't stop for hours. She hesitated. Men didn't offer kindness without cost. But the storm outside roared like a living thing, and exhaustion weighed her bones. She stayed. Inside, the estate was pristine. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers. Kesha felt like mud made human. The man Lee Tae-sung, she'd later learn, poured himself whiskey. He didn't offer her any. You work at the co-op. Not a question. Yes. They treat you poorly. She stiffened. How would you... I own the co-op. He drank slowly. Through subsidiaries. I own most of the agriculture operations on this side of the island. Kesha's blood went cold. This man, this stranger, held her livelihood in his hands without even knowing her name. Then you know how they treat people like me. People like you. He repeated the phrase like an experiment. You mean disposable. The cruelty of his honesty stung more than Delphine's insults. I should go. Sit. It wasn't a request. Kesha's legs obeyed before her pride could object. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, silence stretched between them, two people from opposite ends of the earth, trapped in the same room by rain and fate. Lee stared into his glass. Do you know what it's like to be told your bloodline ends with you? She blinked. No. Then you're lucky. His jaw tightened. Men like me are measured by what we leave behind. Legacy, heirs. continuation. I have none of that. My body refuses to create what my world demands. Kesha didn't understand why he was telling her this, didn't understand the bitterness in his voice. But she understood emptiness. I was left at a church door, she said quietly. No note, no name, just a baby no one wanted. So maybe I do know what it's like to be told you don't matter. Lee's eyes lifted to hers for the first time, and something shifted. Alcohol loosened restraint, exhaustion dulled fear. What happened between them wasn't love. It wasn't even desire. It was two people reaching for warmth in a world that offered them none. Lee's hands were careful. Kesha's breath was unsteady. I'm infertile, he said against her skin, almost like a warning. Medically confirmed. You need to know that. She didn't understand why it mattered, didn't understand what he was protecting her from. In the morning, she would realize he was protecting himself. Dawn came gray and unforgiving. Kesha woke alone. The storm had passed. The room was empty. Shame crawled up her spine, not for what happened, but for the stupid, foolish hope she'd felt in the dark. Hope that someone powerful might see her, might choose her. She dressed quickly, slipping out the same way she came in. By the time Lee woke, she was already gone. He wouldn't remember her face. Or so he thought. Kesha walked back to the co-op under a bruised sky. The women were already whispering. Delphine's eyes glittered with malice. Look who finally shows up. Spent the night somewhere nice, did we? I was caught in the storm. Oh, I'm sure you were caught. Maribel's laugh was vicious. Caught under some man, probably. Kesha's hands curled into fists, but she said nothing. Silence. Always silence. Because the world didn't listen to girls from the hills. What Kesha didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that the man she'd spent one rain-soaked night with was no ordinary businessman. Lee Tae-sung was a king in a kingdom built on blood, and she had just become part of his story. This is how it began. Lee Tae-sung stood at the window, watching rain devour the island darkness. Behind him, men laughed, his associates, his subordinaries, his vultures. They celebrated sons, grandsons, bloodlines that stretched back centuries and forward into eternity. He had none of that. Tae-sung, Jae-won, his second in command, clapped him on the shoulder. Come drink with us, we're toasting Sung-min's third son. Third son. The words were a blade between his ribs. I'm fine here. You're never fine. Jae-won's voice dropped. The elders are talking again. About succession. About replacing me. Lee's tone was flat. Let them talk. But they both knew talk became action quickly in his world. A leader without an heir was a leader on borrowed time. Jae-won left him alone. Lee poured another drink. Then another. The alcohol didn't dull the edge, it just made the blade feel heavier. Somewhere in the estate, a door opened. Closed, footsteps, light and uncertain. The girl from earlier. The one who'd looked at him like he was just a man, not a myth. Kesha found herself in a hallway she didn't recognize. The estate was a maze of wealth, each room more impossible than the last. She shouldn't be here. She should leave. But the rain outside was biblical, and exhaustion lived in her bones. Lost? She spun. Lee stood in a doorway, drink in hand, eyes darker than before. I was looking for. I should go. You keep saying that. He stepped closer. But you don't move. Because moving required energy she didn't have. Because the warmth inside this place was the first comfort she'd felt in months. Because for one stupid moment, she wanted to exist somewhere that wasn't cruel. You're drunk, she said quietly. Observant. He studied her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. What's your name? Kesha. Kesha. He repeated it, the syllables foreign in his mouth. Do you know what they were celebrating out there? No. Children, sons, legacy. His laugh was bitter. Things I'll never have. She didn't know what to say, didn't know why this powerful man was confessing weakness to her. I'm sorry. Don't be. He drank again. Sympathy is useless. My body is defective. Medical fact. 5 different doctors confirmed it. I am the end of my line. The pain in his voice was naked, raw. Kesha understood that pain. Different source, same wound. She'd spent her whole life being told she was less than. unwanted. A mistake someone left behind. I was abandoned, she heard herself say. As a baby, left at a church like trash someone needed to hide. His eyes sharpened. That's different. Is it? She met his gaze. You're mourning children you can't have. I'm mourning parents who didn't want me. Both of us are carrying emptiness. Silence stretched between them, not comfortable, but honest. You should leave, Lee said, but he didn't move away. I know. Neither of them moved. What happened next wasn't planned. Wasn't romantic. Wasn't anything but two broken people reaching for something that felt less like loneliness. Lee's hand found her wrist, not pulling, just holding. I can't give you anything. I'm not asking for anything. I mean it. His voice was sharp, almost angry. I'm infertile, medically confirmed. If you're thinking, I'm not thinking. Kesha's voice cracked. I'm just tired, so tired of being cold. He understood that. God help him, he understood. His mouth found hers, not gentle, but not cruel either. Just desperate, just human. Kesha's hands trembled against his chest. This was wrong. She knew it was wrong, but wrong felt warmer than right ever had. They moved to his room in silence. No words, no promises, just breath and shadow and the sound of rain trying to drown the world. Lee's touch was careful, controlled, even through the alcohol. Last chance to leave. She didn't leave. Afterward, they lay in silence. No pillow talk, no false intimacy. You'll regret this, Lee said to the ceiling. Probably. I won't remember your face in a month. Good. Kesha's throat tightened. I don't want to be remembered. Liar! The word echoed in her skull. She wanted to matter, wanted to be seen, wanted one person on earth to look at her and think she was worth keeping. But wanting was dangerous. This can't happen again, Lee continued, his voice already distant. I know. I leave for Korea in 2 days. I know. You need to forget this night. Kesha closed her eyes. Already forgotten. Another lie. Lee's breathing slowed, deepened. Sleep claimed him quickly. Kesha lay awake, listening to rain and wondering why she felt more alone beside him than she ever had by herself. Morning came gray and judgmental. Kesha woke first. Lee's arm was heavy across her waist, not protective, just unconscious weight. Reality crashed down. What had she done? What had she let herself hope for in the darkness? Nothing. This meant nothing. She slipped from the bed, dressed quickly. Her hands shook as she pulled on yesterday's clothes, still damp from rain, smelling of earth and shame. Lee didn't wake, didn't stir. Good. Better this way. Kesha looked at him once more, this man who owned half the island without knowing her name. This man who'd held her like she mattered for exactly 3 hours before dawn reminded them both that she didn't. She left without a sound. The walk back to the co-op took 2 hours. Kesha's legs ached. Her chest ached worse. Stupid girl. Stupid, stupid girl. She'd let herself believe for one single night that maybe she was more than a body that worked, more than hands that carried, more than a mouth that stayed silent. But morning was honest. Morning said, "You're exactly what you've always been. Nobody." The sun climbed higher, burning away the last traces of rain. By the time Kesha reached the village, the night felt like something she'd imagined. Maybe she had. Maybe mercy looked like forgetting. Lee woke to empty sheets and instant regret. He sat up slowly, head pounding. Fragments of last night surfaced: too much whiskey, too much bitterness, a girl with eyes that understood pain. What was her name? He couldn't remember. Good. Better that way. Jaewon knocked, entering without waiting. We leave in an hour. Seoul is demanding your presence. Fine. Are you? Jaewon paused, noting the second glass on the nightstand. Did someone? No one. Lee's voice was sharp. Just me and expensive alcohol. Jaewon knew better than to push. By noon, Lee was in a car heading to the airport. By sunset, he was back in Korea, back in meetings about succession and threats and everything that mattered. The girl from the storm didn't matter. He'd make sure of that. Kesha told herself. It was just one night. Lee told himself. It was just one mistake. Both believed it would end there. Both were wrong. Because 3,000 miles away, in a luxury apartment in Seoul, Lee faced his elders. You need an heir, Tae-sung, his uncle said. The bloodline cannot end with you. Then it ends. Lee's voice was cold. Medical science has spoken. Medical science can be wrong. 5 doctors. Same diagnosis. I'm infertile. His uncle's eyes narrowed. Then we find another way. Adoption. Surrogacy. Something. No. This isn't about pride. It's about reality. Lee stood. I'm sterile. Accept it. But the elders never accepted anything. And in Jamaica, Kesha's body was already beginning to prove that certainty was an illusion. Delphine's eyes found her immediately. Well, well. The lost sheep returns. Her smile was vicious. Rough night, Kesha? Kesha kept walking, head down. Silence her shield. She won't answer. Maribel laughed, probably ashamed. Look at her clothes still wet. Where did you really spend the night? Caught in the storm, Kesha said quietly. Oh, I'm sure you were caught. Delphine stepped into her path. Caught under someone, maybe. Caught on your back? The other women's laughter cut like glass. Move. Kesha's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. Make me. They stared at each other, 2 women from the same poverty, but Delphine had clawed her way to supervisor by knowing whose boots to lick and whose reputation to destroy. Enough. Cadogan's voice boomed. Back to work. All of you. Delphine smiled sweetly, stepping aside. Welcome back, Kesha. Hope it was worth it. It wasn't. Kesha wanted to scream it. It wasn't worth anything. But silence was survival. 2 weeks passed. Kesha woke one morning and immediately vomited into the bucket beside her bed. Stress. Just stress. But the nausea returned the next day. And the next? Her breasts ached. Her period, always irregular, didn't come. No. Impossible. I'm infertile. Medically confirmed. His words echoed. Medical fact. 5 doctors. But her body whispered a different truth. Kesha bought a test from the clinic in town, spending money she couldn't afford, avoiding eye contact with the pharmacist who knew everyone's business. She took the test in the public restroom, behind the church where she'd been abandoned 22 years ago. 2 lines. Positive. The test clattered from her hands. Kesha sat on the bathroom floor for an hour, staring at nothing. Pregnant. She was pregnant. By a man whose name she barely knew. A man who'd explicitly said this couldn't happen. A man who'd left the island and forgotten her face. Panic rose like floodwater. In rural Jamaica, pregnancy without a husband wasn't a blessing, it was a condemnation. Single mothers were whispered about, judged, denied work, denied dignity. And this baby's father? A foreign businessman who owned half the island through shell companies? No one would believe her. She could already hear Delphine's laughter. Kesha claims her baby daddy is a rich Korean? Sure, girl, and I'm the Queen of England. No. She'd tell no one. Never. 3,000 miles away, Lee Tae-sung faced assassination. Not literal, not yet, but the political kind. The kind where men smiled to your face while sharpening knives for your back. Tae-sung, his cousin, Dae-hyun, leaned across the conference table. The family is concerned. About? Your condition. Dae-hyun's smile didn't reach his eyes. Without an heir, the succession remains unclear. I'm 34. Not dead, but sterile. Another elder, Chairman Yoon, spoke carefully. Which means your line ends. The family needs certainty. Translation, they needed him replaced. Lee's jaw tightened. My health is not up for discussion. Everything is up for discussion, Dae-hyun said smoothly. When billions are at stake. Jae-won caught Lee's eye, a warning. They were circling, waiting for weakness. This meeting is over. Lee stood. Not quite. Chairman Yoon placed a folder on the table. We've arranged meetings with potential surrogates. Women willing to carry a child for the family legacy. No. Tae-sung. I said no. His voice was ice. I won't manufacture an heir through money and contracts. Then how? Dae-hyun spread his hands. Miracle? The room went quiet. Lee left without another word. Kesha's body changed slowly, then all at once. By week 8, her jeans wouldn't button. By week 10, nausea gave way to exhaustion so deep she could barely stand. You sick? Cadogan asked one afternoon, finding her sitting when she should be working. Just tired. Tired doesn't finish quotas. His eyes narrowed. You pregnant? No. The lie came quick. Desperate. He didn't believe her. She saw it in his face. Better not be, he warned. I don't keep charity cases. Especially ones stupid enough to get knocked up. Kesha forced herself to stand, to work, to pretend her world wasn't collapsing. By week 12, hiding became impossible. Delphine noticed first. Kesha, you getting fat? No. Liar. Maribel's eyes glittered. Look at her. That's not fat. That's a belly. The other women gathered like crows to carrion. Who's the father? Delphine demanded. None of your business. Oh, it's everyone's business. Delphine circled her. Pregnant, unmarried, no man brave enough to claim you? How pathetic. Leave me alone. Why? You think you're special? You think having a bastard makes you important? Kesha's vision blurred. Please. Please what? Please pretend you're not a whore? The slap came from nowhere, Kesha's hand connecting with Delphine's cheek before thought caught up. Silence crashed down. Delphine's face twisted. You're done. Finished. Cadogan! Cadogan fired her on the spot. Get out. Don't come back. Sir, please, I need this work. I have a bastard to feed? Not my problem. Kesha stumbled outside, the afternoon sun brutal. Her legs shook, her chest tightened. The walk home 3 miles uphill stretched like forever. Halfway there, her vision darkened. She collapsed in red dirt, her hands instinctively covering her belly. Please, she whispered to the child growing inside her. Please don't leave me, you're all I have. A farmer found her an hour later, dehydrated and barely conscious. He carried her to the clinic. The doctor, an older woman named Dr. Ansel, examined her quietly. 13 weeks, she said finally. The baby's fine, but you're not. When did you last eat? Kesha couldn't remember. Girl, you can't starve yourself. This child needs. I lost my job. Kesha's voice cracked. I have nothing. Dr. Ansel studied her, this young woman with no family, no husband, no protection. Just a belly full of impossible and a face full of fear. Does the father know? No. And he can't. Why not? Because he's gone. And he doesn't remember me. And even if he did, no one would believe he's the father. Dr. Ansel didn't push. She'd seen enough desperation to recognize truth. You'll need vitamins, protein, rest. She pressed a bottle of pills into Kesha's hands. Take these. Free of charge. I can't. Yes, you can. Her voice was firm but kind. Someone helped me once. Now I help you. Kesha wanted to cry but had no tears left. That night, Lee received a call. Tae-sung. Chairman Yoon's voice was grave. We've received intelligence, assassination threats, multiple sources. From who? Rival families. They see your situation as opportunity. Translation. His lack of heir made him a target. No children meant no legacy to avenge him. Killing him ended everything. Lee hung up and stared at Seoul's skyline. Power without legacy was nothing. He'd always known that. But knowing and feeling were different. Jae-won. Yes? Double security? Quietly. Understood. Lee poured himself a drink, his nightly ritual now. Alcohol and bitterness, mixed in equal parts. Somewhere on an island he'd already forgotten, a woman carried his child. But he didn't know that yet. And neither of them knew that biology was about to become a weapon. Dr. Ansel looked at the ultrasound screen, then at Kesha, then back at the screen. 16 weeks, she said quietly. Healthy heartbeat, strong. Kesha stared at the grainy image, a tiny human curled inside her. Real, undeniable. Boy or girl? Too early to tell. Dr. Ansel printed the image. Kesha, you need to eat. Your iron levels are dangerous. I'm trying. Try harder. This baby, she paused. Does the father really not know? No. Will you tell him? Kesha took the ultrasound photo, creasing it carefully. What's the point? He made it clear. One night. Nothing more. And he can't even have children, he told me. Medical fact. Dr. Ansel's brow furrowed. Men are often wrong about that. 5 doctors confirmed it. And yet, Dr. Ansel gestured to the ultrasound. Here we are. Kesha left the clinic with vitamin samples and borrowed hope. She'd keep the baby safe. Alone if necessary. Always alone. By week 18, hiding was impossible. Her belly pushed against every shirt. Strangers stared. Children pointed. Women whispered. That's the orphan girl. Got herself pregnant. No husband. No shame. Kesha walked through town with her head high and her soul fracturing. The children's home, the only place that had ever wanted her, was her refuge. Kesha. The children swarmed her, hugging her legs. You brought snacks. She'd spent her last money on crackers and juice. Director Pembroke pulled her aside. You can't keep doing this. Look at you, you're starving. The children need. You're pregnant and broke. You need to think about your baby. I am thinking about my baby. Kesha's voice cracked. This baby will be born into nothing, just like me. But maybe if I can help other kids, give them something, then at least someone benefits. Noble and stupid. Pembroke's eyes softened. Does the father know? No. And he won't. Pride or fear? Both. Doesn't matter. He's gone. And even if I found him, he'd think I was lying. Why? Because he's sterile. Medically confirmed. Pembroke went very still. And yet, Kesha pressed her hand to her belly. This baby exists anyway. Silas Morrow was a fixer. A middleman. A broker of information in a world where knowledge was currency, and he'd just stumbled onto gold. His contact in Seoul had mentioned Lee Tae-sung's infertility, the succession crisis, the family desperation. And then by chance he'd seen a young woman in rural Jamaica. Pregnant, alone. The same woman who'd been seen entering Lee's estate the night of the storm. Coincidence? Silas didn't believe in coincidence. He made calls, quiet inquiries, paid a clinic worker for information. 16 weeks pregnant. Timeline matched the storm. Silas smiled. This wasn't just information. This was leverage. This was blackmail material. This was if the child was actually Lee's, a fortune, waiting to be extracted. He booked a flight to Seoul. They're not rumors anymore, J1 said grimly. 3 confirmed attempts planned. We intercepted 2. Lee sat in his office, surrounded by bulletproof glass and armed guards. And the 3rd? Still active. Targets? You, obviously. Lee almost laughed. They think killing me ends the organization? They think killing you before you produce an heir ends your dynasty. J1 paused. They're right. The words hung heavy. Lee had built an empire. But empires required succession. Legacy, blood. He had none of that. Double the security. It's already doubled. Then triple it. J1 hesitated. There's another option. Speak. Announce a false heir. Buy time. And when the lie is exposed? By then, maybe we've eliminated the threats. Lee considered it. A logical strategy. A ruthless one. No, I won't fabricate children. Then you die without legacy. Then I die. Lee's voice was ice. At least with honesty. But alone in his apartment that night, the weight pressed down. Sterile, hireless, vulnerable, and time was running out. The church refused Kesha entry. We can't have unwed mothers attending service, the pastor said, not unkindly. It sets a poor example. I just want to pray. Pray at home. She left, burning with shame. The market was worse. Vendors watched her belly like it was evidence of crime. Whose is it? One asked bluntly. Mine. The father? Gone. Of course he is. The woman's sneer was casual cruelty. Men don't stay for girls like you. Kesha bought rice and beans with coins scraped from bottle returns. The bag was light. Her future was lighter. Week 20 brought dizziness. Kesha walked to the communal well, bucket in hand. The sun was merciless. Her vision swam. She knelt, drawing water. The world tilted. She fell hard, belly hitting the ground. Pain bloomed sharp and immediate. No, 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 no. She curled around her stomach. Please, please don't take my baby. Hands lifted her. Director Pembroke, called by a neighbor. Hospital, now. I can't afford. God damn the cost. Move. Silas Morrow walked into the Blackwood building in Seoul like he belonged there. He didn't. But money opened doors. I need to speak with Lee Tae-sung, he told the receptionist. Regarding? A personal matter. Tell him it concerns Jamaica. And a storm 6 months ago. The receptionist's face didn't change, but she made a call. 10 minutes later, Silas was escorted to a conference room. Lee entered with Jae-won flanking him. You have 60 seconds. I have information, Silas said smoothly. About a woman in Jamaica, young, pregnant, claims you're the father. Lee's expression didn't flicker. Elaborate. Rural girl. Kesha. She was at your estate during the November storm. Silas placed a photo on the table. Kesha, visibly pregnant, leaving a clinic. She's 20 weeks along. Timeline matches. Impossible. Is it? Silas smiled. Or is it inconvenient? Lee's hand curled into a fist. I'm sterile. Medical fact. Medical facts can be wrong. 5 doctors. Or 5 doctors missed something. Silas leaned forward. Look, I don't care about your medical history. I care about opportunity. This girl? She's not asking for money, not asking for recognition. But she has your child. And in your world, that child is worth everything. Get out. Test her, Silas said, standing. Before someone else does. Before your enemies realize you might actually have an heir. He left a folder on the table, medical records, photos, timeline documentation. Lee stared at it like it was a bomb. Jae-won opened the folder. It could be a scam, he said carefully. It could be. We should investigate. Yes. And if it's true? Lee didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because if it was true, everything he believed about himself was wrong. And if it was true, the woman he'd dismissed, the woman whose name he'd barely remembered, now carried the only thing that mattered. His bloodline, his legacy, his heir. Find her, Lee said quietly. Bring me proof. And if the child is yours? Lee's eyes were cold, calculating. Then, everything changes. Jae-won arrived in Jamaica with orders. Verify paternity without direct contact. He started with the clinic. Dr. Ansel refused to cooperate. Patient confidentiality. Money changed her mind. Not a lot, just enough. The baby's healthy, she said carefully. Mother's malnourished but stable. She's due in March. And the father? She won't say. But she mentioned him? Dr. Ansel hesitated. She said he was sterile. 5 doctors confirmed it. She said no one would believe her if she claimed paternity. Jae-won's stomach dropped. 5 doctors. Lee's exact phrasing. Did she mention a name? No. But she's terrified. Alone. Broke. Dr. Ansel's eyes hardened. If someone powerful sent you to hurt her, no one's hurting anyone. Jae-won stood. We're just verifying facts. Facts. Right. Facts that could destroy certainty. It's impossible. Lee paced his office, the report in his hands. Medical science doesn't lie. Medical science also said men couldn't run a 4-minute mile, Jae-won said evenly. Until they did. That's different. Is it? Tae-sung, the timeline matches. Her description matches. The infertility claim matches your exact words. Then she researched me. This is a trap. A trap where she's starving herself to avoid asking you for help? Jae-won shook his head. Most scammers lead with demands. She's hiding. Lee threw the folder across the room. I won't be manipulated. Then get DNA proof. Test the child when it's born. And if it's mine? Jae-won met his eyes. Then you have exactly what you thought you'd never have. An heir, a future, a dynasty. Lee's hands trembled with rage or fear, he couldn't tell which. Find her, he said finally, but quietly. No direct approach yet. And if she refuses contact, then we make sure the child survives, whether she cooperates or not. Kesha was hanging laundry when the men arrived. 3 of them, foreign, well-dressed, dangerous in the way wealthy men are dangerous, politely, legally, inevitably. Kesha? The leader, a tall Korean man, spoke carefully. Her hands stilled on the clothesline. Who's asking? My name is Jae-won. I work for Lee Tae-sung. Her blood went cold. I don't know that name. You do. His voice was gentle but firm. You were at his estate, November 3rd, during the storm. I don't. We're not here to hurt you. Jae-won stepped forward slowly. We just need to confirm something. The child you're carrying. Is Lee Tae-sung the father? Silence stretched like wire. Then Kesha laughed sharp, bitter. You think I'd claim a man like that? You think anyone would believe me? We believe you. Why? Because you investigated? Because you have photos? She turned on him, fury rising. I've spent 6 months being called a whore, being fired, being banned from church. You think I'm going to admit the father is some foreign billionaire? Everyone would assume I'm lying for money. Are you? Get out. Kesha. I said, get out. Her voice cracked. I don't want his money. I don't want his name. I just want my baby safe. Jae-won studied her, this young woman, trembling with exhaustion and rage, protecting her belly like it was the only thing that mattered. She wasn't lying. She was terrified. What do you need? He asked quietly. What? For the baby. Safety? Medical care? Housing? What do you need? I need you to leave. We can't do that. Why not? Because, if that child is Lee Tae-sung's, then your baby is worth more than this entire island. His voice was serious. And that makes you both targets. Kesha's legs weakened. Targets? Lee has enemies, powerful ones. If they learn he has an heir. He doesn't have an heir. He has a baby he doesn't want, and a mother no one believes. She pressed her hand to her stomach. We're nobody. Leave us alone. I'm sorry. We can't. Jae-won's call came at midnight. She refused contact. Force it. Tae-sung. She's not hostile. She's terrified. She genuinely doesn't want anything from you. Lee paused. What? She refused money. Refused protection. Her only demand was that we leave her alone. That didn't make sense. Every woman Lee had ever encountered had wanted something. Status, wealth, access. This woman wanted nothing? She's playing a long game, Lee said finally. Or she's genuine. No one's genuine. She is. Jae-won's voice was certain. And that's what's unsettling you. Because, if she's genuine, then you owe her more than suspicion. Lee hung up, but the doubt lingered. A woman who refused money, refused recognition, refused help. That wasn't a schemer. That was something far more dangerous. That was someone with integrity. Delphine found out within days. Foreign men asking about you? Her eyes glittered with malice. Who'd you trap, Kesha? No one. Liar. She grabbed Kesha's wrist. You think you're special now? You think having some rich man's bastard makes you important? Let go. Tell me who the father is. No. Then I'll tell everyone you're hiding something, that you're dangerous. Do what you want. Kesha wrenched free. I'm used to cruelty. It doesn't touch me anymore. But it did. God, it did. They'll come back, Dr. Ansel said during Kesha's next checkup. Those men, they're not going to let this go. I don't care. You should. Dr. Ansel met her eyes. If that baby's father is who I think he is, doesn't matter who he is. It matters when his enemies decide you're a target. She gripped Kesha's hand. Child, you need protection. I need freedom. You can't have both. Kesha's eyes burned. Then I choose freedom. My baby won't grow up in a cage. Lee stared at the newest photo Jae-won had sent. Kesha at the market, belly prominent, face exhausted but defiant. She looked nothing like the women who orbited his world, polished, calculating, hungry. She looked tired. And real. Order DNA testing, he told Jae-won, the moment the child is born. And if she refuses? She won't have a choice. Tae-sung, I need to know. Lee's voice was steel. If that child is mine, everything changes. If it's not, we walk away. And the mother? She's collateral, nothing more. But the words felt like lies, even as he spoke them. Kesha stood on her porch, hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick. I'll keep you safe, she whispered. I promise. Even if your father doesn't want us, even if the world doesn't believe us, I'll keep you safe. The baby kicked again, strong, insistent, alive. Kesha closed her eyes. Tomorrow, She'd face whatever came. Tonight, she'd pretend safety was possible. March arrived with violence. Kesha's water broke at dawn 3 weeks early, sudden and terrifying. Director Pembroke drove her to the clinic, Kesha's screams filling the small car. Too soon, Kesha gasped. The baby's too soon. Babies come when they want, Pembroke said firmly. Dr. Ansell's ready. But Dr. Ansell looked worried. 37 weeks. Technically full term, but small. Kesha, this is going to be hard. It was. 14 hours of labor. Kesha's body breaking, her screams echoing. And then a cry. Small, angry, alive. A girl, Dr. Ansell said, wrapping the baby carefully. 5 pounds, 2 ounces. She's tiny, but she's a fighter. Kesha sobbed as they placed her daughter on her chest. She's perfect. She is, Dr. Ansell smiled. What will you name her? Kesha looked at her daughter's face, dark eyes, full of fury, full of life. Zephyrine. A name meaning west wind. Something strong and untamed. Zephyrine. Beautiful. But the peace lasted only minutes. There are men here, a nurse whispered urgently. Foreign. They're demanding access. Kesha's arms tightened around her daughter. No. They have legal documents. Court orders for paternity testing. No. But J1 entered anyway, flanked by lawyers. I'm sorry, he said quietly, but we need a sample for DNA testing. Get away from my baby. Kesha, please. We just need a cheek swab. That's all. Dr. Ansell stepped between them. Get out. She just gave birth. You can wait 24 hours. We can't. J1 met her eyes. Lee Tae-sung needs to know if this child is his. Today. Kesha wanted to fight, wanted to refuse. But exhaustion won. Fine. 1 swab, then leave. They took the sample gently, barely touching Zephyrine's cheek. And then they were gone. Kesha held her daughter and wept. Lee didn't sleep. He sat in his office, phone in hand, waiting for the call that would change everything. J1 had sent the sample via private jet. Results would take 48 hours. 2 days to know if he was sterile or just misdiagnosed. 2 days to know if he had a daughter. A daughter. The word felt foreign. Impossible. Sir? His assistant knocked. Your uncle is demanding a meeting. Tell him I'm busy. He says it's urgent. About succession. Of course it was. The vultures never stopped circling. The email arrived at 3 a.m. Seoul time. Lee opened it alone. Paternity test results. 99.97% probability of biological paternity. The words blurred. Lee read them again. Again. The child was his. His. Lee Tae-sung, declared infertile by 5 doctors, had a daughter. The phone rang. J1. You saw? Yes. What do you want to do? Lee stood, walked to the window. Seoul's lights spread below him like stars. Everything just changed. Yes. The girl Kesha. She's the mother of my heir. Yes. Which means she's untouchable now. Silence. Then Lee laughed sharp, disbelieving. 5 years I spent accepting sterility. Accepting that my line ended with me. And the entire time, I was wrong. Medical science isn't perfect. Clearly. Lee's voice hardened. I need full protection detail on Kesha and the child. Immediately. Anyone who threatens them dies. Understood. And J1? Yes? I'm going to Jamaica. I need to see her. News traveled fast in Lee's world. By dawn, every major family knew. Lee Tae-sung had an heir. Panic spread among his enemies. Celebration among his allies. His uncle called, voice tight with shock. Is it true? Yes. How is this possible? Apparently 5 doctors were wrong. Where is the child? Jamaica. Under protection. And the mother? Lee paused. Also under protection. Bring them here, to Seoul, where they're safe. They're safe where they are. Tae-sung, this conversation is over. Lee hung up, but he knew his uncle was right. Jamaica wasn't safe, not anymore. Not when his daughter was worth more than entire nations. They came at night. Not Lee. Not J1. Guards. Dozens of them. Miss Kesha, we're here to ensure your safety. I don't need. The DNA results came back. Lee Tae-sung is confirmed as the father, which means you and your daughter are now high-value targets. We're here to protect you. I don't want protection. It's not optional. Within hours, Kesha's small home was surrounded by armed men. Cameras appeared, metal detectors, bulletproof glass. She was a prisoner in her own life. I want to leave, she told Jaewon when he arrived. You can't. This isn't protection. This is imprisonment. It's both. His voice was honest. Kesha, the moment that DNA result was confirmed, your life ended as you knew it. Lee Tae-sung's enemies will kill you to hurt him, and they'll kill your daughter to end his bloodline. Then we'll hide. There's nowhere to hide from men like this. Zephyrin cried in her arms. Kesha held her closer. I didn't ask for this. No one asks for destiny. Lee held a press conference in Seoul. I have an announcement, he said, face emotionless. I have a daughter, born March 15th. Her name is Zephyrin, and she is my confirmed biological heir. The room exploded with questions. How is this possible? You were declared sterile. Medical misdiagnosis. Where is the mother? Jamaica. Under protection. Will you marry her? That's not relevant to this announcement. Is this a strategic move? Lee's eyes went cold. This is a biological fact. My daughter exists. Anyone who threatens her will face consequences. The message was clear. Touch my child. Die. You publicly announced our daughter without asking me? Kesha's voice shook when Jaewon showed her the broadcast. Lee had to. His enemies needed to know she's acknowledged. It protects her. It puts a target on her back. The target was already there. Acknowledgment just makes sure everyone knows he'll retaliate. Kesha wanted to scream, wanted to run, but Zephyrin slept in her arms, peaceful and oblivious. I want to see him, Kesha said suddenly. Who? Lee, the father of my child, the man who just announced our daughter to the world without my consent. I want to see him. Jaewon nodded slowly. He's already on his way. Lee arrived at sunset. He entered Kesha's home, now a fortress, and stopped when he saw her. She looked different than his fragmented memories. Thinner, harder, but still herself. And in her arms, his daughter. Lee's breath caught. Zephyrin was tiny, dark hair, eyes closed in sleep. His daughter? You want to hold her? Kesha's voice was cold. May I? She stood, placed Zephyrin carefully in his arms. Lee had held weapons, money, power. But this was different. This was fragile. This was his. She's beautiful, he whispered. She's mine, Kesha corrected. I carried her, birthed her, protected her, alone. While you decided if we were worth believing? Lee met her eyes. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix anything. No, but acknowledgement does. She's my heir, which means she's untouchable. She's not leverage. I know. Do you? Kesha's voice broke. Because from where I'm standing, I became important the second that DNA test came back. Not before. Not when I was starving. Not when I was fired. Only when biology proved I mattered. Lee had no answer. Because she was right. 3 weeks in paradise turned prison. Kesha's home was now a compound. Guards rotated shifts, cameras watched every angle, even the windows were bulletproof. Zephyrin didn't notice. She ate, slept, and cried with the oblivious peace of the innocent. But Kesha noticed everything. I want to take her outside, she told the head guard, a massive Korean man named Taemin. Not advisable. I don't care. She needs sunlight. 20 minutes. Maximum. Full security detail. So Kesha walked her daughter in the garden she'd once tended freely, now surrounded by 6 armed men. Freedom had died the moment blood was proven. Lee stayed in Jamaica for 2 weeks, running his empire remotely. He visited daily, always proper, always distant. He held Zephyrin carefully, learning her rhythms. But he never stayed long. You treat her like a business transaction, Kesha said one evening. I'm protecting her. You're managing her. There's a difference. Lee's jaw tightened. Would you prefer I leave you both vulnerable? I'd prefer you see us as human. I do. No. You see us as assets. Valuable ones, but assets. Lee had no response. Because she wasn't wrong. The attempt came at midnight. Kesha woke to gunfire, distant but real. Stay down, Taemin burst into her room. Now. She grabbed Zephyrin, crouching behind the bed as shots echoed outside. It lasted 3 minutes. Then silence. Taemin returned, face grim. 2 insurgents, dead. We need to move you. Move us where? Seoul. Lee's fortress there is impenetrable. No. Miss Kesha. I said no. I'm not taking my daughter to Korea. Then you're risking her life. Kesha's hands trembled around Zephyrin. I won't let her grow up in a foreign country where I don't speak the language and have no power. You have no power here either. The truth was brutal. Lee arrived within the hour, helicopter cutting through dawn. He entered like a storm, furious, controlled, lethal. Are you hurt? No. Zephyrin? She's fine. Lee's shoulders dropped fractionally, then his eyes hardened. You're moving to Seoul. Tonight? No. This isn't a negotiation. Then it's a kidnapping. Kesha stood, Zephyrin against her chest. I won't go. Your stubbornness will get her killed. Your world is what's dangerous. Before you, we were invisible. Safe, because no one cared. You made us targets. Lee's fist hit the wall. I didn't choose this. Neither did I, Kesha's voice cracked. I didn't choose to get pregnant by a sterile man, didn't choose to carry a child alone, didn't choose to become valuable only when DNA proved I mattered. And I sure as hell didn't choose to live in a prison. Silence crashed between them. What do you want? Lee asked finally, voice low. I want my life back. That's impossible. Then I want freedom to choose. Choose what? Where we live. How we live. Whether we stay or go. She met his eyes. I want agency. Lee studied her, this woman who kept refusing what most people would kill for. I can't give you complete freedom. Not while threats exist. Then give me partial freedom. Let me choose our location. Let me have privacy. Let me parent without surveillance. Lee stopped. That's harder. I know. Why not just accept protection? Because protection without autonomy is slavery. Kesha's voice was firm. And I won't raise my daughter to think safety requires surrendering selfhood. Lee had never met anyone like her. Most people bent. She refused to break. I'll consider it. It wasn't agreement. But it wasn't refusal. She's changing you, Jae-won said bluntly. I'm adapting strategy. No, you're compromising. That's not like you. Lee poured tea, movements controlled. She's the mother of my heir. And she deserves consideration. Consideration or respect. What's the difference? Consideration is strategic. Respect is emotional. Jae-won leaned forward. Which is it? Lee didn't answer. The surveillance was constant. Cameras in every room except the bathroom. Guards outside her door. Her phone monitored. Her mail screened. I can't breathe. She told Dr. Ansel during a video call approved and recorded. Then leave. And go where? They'll follow. Then accept protection. I can't. Kesha's eyes burned. I grew up in an orphanage. Do you know what that taught me? That walls are meant to keep you in, not safe. That surveillance means control, not care. Kesha, I feel like I'm back there. Watched, managed, told when to eat, sleep, exist. Her voice broke. I'm grateful Zephyrin's safe, but I'm dying inside this fortress. Kesha found Lee in the study he'd claimed. I'm leaving. He looked up, expression unreadable. To where? Anywhere but here. You'll be killed within a week. Then I'll be killed free. Lee stood slowly. You'd risk Zephyrin? I'd risk myself to teach her freedom matters more than safety. That's naive. That's dignity. Kesha stepped closer. You don't understand because you've never lived without power. But I have. And I know that living safe but caged isn't living, it's existing. I won't teach my daughter to just exist. Lee stared at her, this woman who kept choosing principle over pragmatism. What if I removed the cameras? What? From your bedroom, bathroom, nursery. What if I gave you privacy inside the compound? Kesha hesitated. Why would you? Because you're right. Security doesn't require stripping dignity. You mean that? I'm not a man who speaks carelessly. It wasn't freedom. But it was something. Okay, Lee nodded. And I'll consider relocating you to a location you choose, within reason. Really? Really? Kesha studied him. Who are you? What? Oh? The man who announced our daughter without asking? Or the man who's offering me choice? Lee's voice was quiet. I don't know anymore. That night, the cameras came down. Kesha wept as privacy returned, small, partial, but real. Zephyrin slept peacefully. And for the first time since the DNA result, Kesha felt almost human. Lee watched from his study as the security feed went dark in her spaces. J1 entered. You're compromising security. I'm building trust. That's new for you. Everything about this is new. Lee's voice was tired. I thought having an heir would solve everything, but she's not a solution, she's a person. And her mother is. He stopped. What? Who? Remarkable. J1 smiled slightly. So you're learning. I'm adapting. Call it what you want. But you're changing. And that's not weakness, that's growth. Lee said nothing. But the word echoed. Growth. Maybe. Maybe that's what this was. Week 32 brought catastrophe. Kesha woke to pain, sharp, immediate, wrong. Something's wrong. She shook the guard outside her door. Get Dr. Ansel, now. Within minutes, the doctor was on video call, face grave. Describe the pain. Cramping, low, and bleeding. Dr. Ansel's expression darkened. How much blood? Too much. Hospital. Immediately. Kingston General Hospital's private wing became a war room. Kesha lay on a gurney, Zephyrin with a nurse, as doctors worked. Placental abruption, the lead physician said grimly. The placenta's detaching early, life-threatening for mother and any future children. Future children? Kesha's voice cracked. I'm only worried about the daughter I have. You need emergency surgery. But there are complications. What complications? The doctor hesitated. Significant bleeding. If we can't control it, we may need to perform a hysterectomy. The word hung like a death sentence. You're saying I might not be able to have more children? I'm saying we might need to save your life. Lee arrived as they wheeled Kesha into pre-op. Mr. Lee. The surgeon pulled him aside. We need authorization. If the bleeding can't be controlled, do we prioritize saving her fertility or her life? Lee's world tilted. What? She's young. Losing her uterus would end any chance of more children. But keeping it might kill her. We need to know your priority. My priority? She's the mother of your heir. Some men prefer. Save her. Lee's voice was ice. I don't care about fertility. I don't care about future heirs. Save Kesha. The surgeon blinked. You're certain? Completely. Even if it means no more children? I said save her. Lee's control cracked. She's not a breeding vessel. He stopped, the truth hitting him. She's the mother of my daughter. And she matters more than any child we might have had. The surgeon nodded. Understood. Lee sat in the surgical waiting room, surrounded by guards. J1 arrived. Status? Surgery. High risk. And you chose? Her. Over future heirs. Over dynasty. Over everything. Lee's hands trembled. I chose her. Good. Lee looked up sharply. Good? She's been choosing you, choosing to stay, to trust, to co-parent for months now. It was time you chose her back. I chose the practical option. No, you chose the human one. J1 sat beside him. The old you would have calculated odds, preserved options. You didn't. Because she's... Lee stopped. What? Important. Just important? Lee didn't answer. Because the truth was too large to name yet. 4 hours later, the surgeon emerged. She's stable. We controlled the bleeding without hysterectomy. Lee's knees weakened. She can still have children? Theoretically, yes. Though we'd advise against it, the risks would be significant. But she's alive? Very much alive. Lee sat down hard. Can I see her? Once she wakes? Another hour. Kesha's eyes opened to white ceiling and beeping machines. You're awake. Lee stood beside her bed. Zephyrin? With a nurse. Safe. The surgery? Successful. They saved your uterus. Kesha's eyes filled. I can still have children? Yes, though they don't recommend it. She laughed weakly. One is enough. Kesha. Lee sat carefully. They asked me to choose, during surgery, between saving your fertility or your life. Her breath caught. What did you choose? You. His voice was steady. Without hesitation. Without calculation. I chose you. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Why? Because you matter. Not as the mother of my heir, not as a strategic asset, as yourself. Lee, I know I've treated you poorly, seen you as collateral, but when they said I might lose you, his voice cracked. I realized I can't. Can't what? Lose you. Kesha stared at him. This powerful man, vulnerable for the first time since she'd met him. I don't know how to do this, Lee continued. I don't know how to love without controlling, protect without possessing. But I want to learn. Why? Because you deserve better, and so does Zephyrin. Kesha reached for his hand. He took it carefully. Teach me, she whispered. How to trust. Teach me, he replied, how to love. News of Kesha's medical crisis reached Seoul within hours. Lee's choice, prioritizing the mother over future heirs, shocked the family. He chose sentiment over strategy, his uncle said, furious. That woman has made him weak. Or human, Jae-won replied. Maybe that's not weakness. In our world, humanity is fatal. Then maybe our world needs to change. The elders didn't agree. But they couldn't argue with results. Lee had an heir. The bloodline continued. For now, that was enough. 2 weeks post-surgery, Kesha sat in the garden, cameras removed, guards distant but present. Lee joined her, Zephyrin sleeping in his arms. I've been thinking, Kesha said quietly. About? Seoul. Maybe it's time. Lee's head turned sharply. You want to move to Korea? I want Zephyrin safe. And I trust you now. She met his eyes. You chose me when it mattered. That means something. You don't have to. I know. But I want to. On my terms. Which are? No surveillance in our home. I learn Korean. Zephyrin grows up knowing both cultures. And if I ever want to leave, you can. Always. Lee's voice was firm. I won't cage you again. Kesha smiled. Then yes, let's go to Seoul. Together? Together. 6 months later, Kesha stood at the window of Lee's Seoul apartment, her Seoul apartment, now watching cherry blossoms fall like pink snow. Zephyrin babbled in her playpen, chasing shadows. Korean lessons played softly in the background. Kesha was improving. Slowly. But improving. You look content, Lee said, entering with tea. I am. Even here? Far from Jamaica? Jamaica was never home. It was just where I survived. She turned to him. This? With you and Zephyrin? This is different. Different how? It's the first place I've ever felt wanted. Lee set down the tea, crossed to her. You are wanted, very much. The family keeps asking, Jae-won mentioned during a security briefing. When are you getting married? We're not, Lee said simply. What? Kesha doesn't want marriage. Neither do I. But the optics. We're co-parenting. Partners, that's enough. Kesha appreciated that. Marriage felt like ownership. Like legal contract replacing genuine connection. She'd rather have trust than vows. Lee called Kesha to his study one afternoon. I've made a decision. What kind? About your freedom. He slid paperwork across the desk. These are deeds. Properties in Jamaica, Korea, New York. All in your name. Lee, I don't... And bank accounts. Enough that you and Zephyrin never need me financially. Kesha's throat tightened. Why? Because I need you to know you're free to leave. Anytime. For any reason. His eyes met hers. I don't want you staying because you're trapped. I want you staying because you choose to. Tears blurred her vision. You're giving me power over you. I'm giving you agency. Which is what I should have done from the start. She crossed to him, cupped his face. I'm not leaving. You might someday. I won't. Because you finally see me, not as a vessel, not as collateral, as myself. Lee kissed her gently, carefully. I see you. The party was small. No press, no spectacle. Just family. Real family. Zephyrin smashed cake into her face, laughing. Kesha laughed too. Lee recorded every second on his phone, grinning like a fool. She's perfect, Jaewon said, watching. She is. So's her mother. Lee didn't disagree. One evening, Kesha found Lee on the balcony. What are you thinking about? Legacy, dynasty, all the things I thought mattered. And now? Now I realize legacy isn't bloodline, it's teaching Zephyrin to be brave, kind, free. He looked at her. You taught me that. I didn't teach you anything. You taught me that power without humanity is empty, that protection without freedom is prison, that love without choice is possession. Kesha leaned into him. You learned fast. I had a good teacher. Threats didn't disappear. Lee's world remained dangerous. But the difference now, Kesha was partner, not pawn. There's chatter, Jaewon warned during a meeting. Rivals considering another attempt. On me? On Zephyrin. Lee's eyes went cold. Double security. Already done. Kesha listened calmly. She'd learned to navigate this world not by becoming hard, but by remaining strong. We'll keep her safe, she said. Not you'll keep her safe. Will. Partners. Love didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived in morning tea prepared the way Kesha liked it. In Lee learning to braid Zephyrin's hair. In Kesha teaching Lee Jamaican recipes. In midnight feedings where they took turns, exhausted and laughing. In Lee saying, I'm going to Seoul and asking, do you want to come? Instead of demanding. In Kesha saying, I need space, and Lee respecting it without question. It wasn't romance. It was something better. It was partnership. Kesha stood in the garden of their Seoul home, Zephyrin on her hip, watching Lee train with his guards. He was still dangerous, still powerful, still feared. But with her, he was gentle. With Zephyrin, he was soft. Mama? Zephyrin pointed. Papa? Yes, baby, Papa. Lee noticed them, smiled, crossed over. What are you two scheming? Just watching you pretend you're invincible. I am invincible. You're a father. That's different. He kissed Zephyrin's forehead, then Kesha's. Better? Much. They stood together, three people who shouldn't exist as a unit but did. A rural Jamaican girl who'd been dismissed as invisible. A Korean Mafia boss who'd been declared infertile. And a daughter who proved destiny laughs at certainty. We made it, Kesha whispered. We did. What happens next? Lee smiled. Whatever we choose. And for the first time in both their lives, that was enough. The sun set over Seoul. Cherry blossoms fell like promises. Inside their fortress home, Kesha sang Jamaican lullabies to their daughter. Lee watched from the doorway, no longer afraid of softness. Because power redefined looked like this: protection without ownership, love without possession, legacy without control. The girl no one defended had become untouchable. Not because of who fathered her child, but because she'd learned her own worth and taught him his humanity. The bloodline didn't end. It transformed, and destiny finally felt like freedom. And that's where part 1 ends. But Kesha and Lee's story? It's far from over, because enemies don't forgive, rivals don't forget, and in a world built on blood and power, having an heir makes you a target, not a legend. Seoul's underworld is watching. Rival families are plotting. And Kesha will soon learn that being the mother of Lee Tae-sung's child doesn't just give you protection, it puts a permanent target on your back. Part 2 is coming, but I need to know you want it. If you're invested in this story, if you need to know what happens when enemies strike, when Zephyrin's life is threatened, when Kesha must choose between love and survival one final time, then do this. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single episode. And drop a comment below saying part 2 so I know you're ready for the next chapter. The more comments I see, the faster part 2 drops. So don't be shy, type part 2 in the comments. Tell me what you think will happen next. And let's keep this story alive together. I'll see you in part 2. Don't make me tell this story without you.